GM. Welcome to my perfect top guide, fully in depth, every room explained as detailed as possible. Why you should trust me, I've done perfect top near enough 100 times. I've boosted it, I've made a lot of GP boosting it, but not only that, also in the CA disc, you can post for high risk perfect top, which means that if someone makes a mistake, the person who makes the mistake gives everyone a certain amount of money. And I made a lot from that as well, as I'm sure a lot of you have seen my 1 bill risk video. If you haven't, check out in the description. Anyway, as for gear setups, they are as follows. The melee freeze can change Swiftblade for Ralos and take the Dwarf Paint Cannon and destroy it after Sote. The Ranger can take Thralls and Venge instead of freezes if the team are confident. As for plugins, the only plugin I'm going to tell you how to set up at this moment in time is this plugin. It's called Custom Menu Swaps. And then follow your role of how to set it up. If you are wanting to autocast crabs at Verzik, just make sure you need to disable the custom hides again by putting a / in front of all of the options after Nylos. I know it's frustrating, but if you want to autocast, that's the price you pay. The Maiden of Sugadinti. For the Maiden, you cannot take any hits off prayer, you cannot stand in blood, and you cannot leak a crab. One mechanic to note is the random splats that aren't quite random in this room. They are given to the most northern person in the room, and they affect you in a 3x3 radius. So move 3 tiles at a time to be immune to this from the original tile. Be careful when you're freezing not to go too close to Maiden, because you get less time to react. And if you're near the person who's getting the 3 random splats, be aware. I'm going to start off by explaining the range roll, because I think it's the easiest to explain and understand. On entry, you're going to do 1 hammer, 1 BGS, and then you're either going to Tbow from the back or Scythe at the boss. Just be wary that because you're north side, you need to move 3 tiles at a time, as I am doing. And then when crabs spawn, you definitely want to Blowpipe, again because of these random splats. If you get splatted while scything, the whole crab could be covered, so you definitely want to Blowpipe. Also, because it's easier to move as well. Once you've made sure to kill north 1 and 2, you can get back onto Maiden. Remember that you're in charge of the procs, so you can never off the boss, while the mages can. For the full point of view of Ranger in Perfect Tob, check out my 1 bill high risk Perfect Tob video down below. I was Ranger all throughout, and so you can see the role played perfectly. Now, because of client confidentiality, I can't actually share a North Freeze role in Maiden, so instead, I got a VOD from my stream where I was boosting Rendi's level 3 through hard mode Tob. I do the exact same procedure as a North Freeze, so just take it as such. You're going to do an accurate bow on the way in, into a double BGS, and then you're going to be freezing North 1, 2, 3, 4, and killing the clump, as shown below. Again, be careful of the random splats, because you might have them. Make sure to move 3 tiles at a time, and don't freeze Maiden too close, because otherwise you could end up taking the random splat, because her projectiles are faster the closer you are to her. Now onto Mage, where I'm going to show the full VOD, just so you can see the exact procedure throughout, as well as how Mage can back up the melee freeze. On entry, you're going to do 1 hammer, 1 BGS. If 1 crab spawns, you can freeze 1, 3, and 4. If 2 crabs spawn, freeze the 1, delay a tick on the 2 so it's in the clump, and then freeze 4, as shown throughout. When I Tbow, that is the exact same thing as a barrage. It means that I'm on first tick, because the crab's frozen in the first box, and it means that I can freeze 1, 3, and 4. Always make sure to kill your S1. Blowpiping is definitely easier than scything. You should never get the random splats on South Mage, as long as people are also Tbowing from max distance. If they're close to the boss, you could potentially get them, but it's very, very, very unlikely. If you have any questions about Maiden, please do let me know. Now on to the Pestilent Bloat. There's only 3 rules for this one. Don't get hit by hands, don't get hit by the stomp, don't get hit by flies. For Bloat, the first down, you want to do 1 Crystal Halberd, 3 Scythes, 1 Crystal Halberd, so long as you don't lose too many ticks getting to him. On the second down, you want to do Claw and 4 Scythes, so long as you don't take too long getting to him. And then if it comes to third down, just Scythe him till dead. If you're late, just remove 1 Scythe. Be careful, every time that Bloat turns a corner, you should also turn a corner. You want to be diagonal from him, as you will see me doing. The Nylocas. The Nylocas are a funny one, because if you put the settings that I gave you at the start, you literally cannot fail, apart from the melee. Now, the Nylocas work on a 54 tick cycle, in that after 54 ticks they naturally explode, which is around 31 seconds. Now, the ones that come down the lane, so the non-split Nylocas, they change colour after 27 ticks of being in the room. So what I propose is that you add this plugin called Nyloa. If you copy my settings as shown on screen, where you show Nylocas wave and show split as S, it means that you can see which ones are split Nylos and which ones are from the lane. So the Nylos with an S in front of them, they'll never change colour, you can always hit those. The ones without an S in front of you either need to kill early or leave them alone. As you can see here from this clip, when I was doing 500 mil high risk with J-Rays, he failed because he right-clicked a Nylo that was melee, and as he pathed to it, it changed colour and it counted as a fail, which lost him 500 mil. The only additional info I have is be careful when barraging, only barrage in the lanes, same with chinning, and do not use the Scythe as a melee. You can Swiftblade absolutely everything, because Scythe works so weirdly with its cleave damage, you don't even want to give it a chance. But if you copy my settings, you'll be absolutely fine. I believe in you. Nylo Waves are one of the easiest spots, so long as you've got the plugins for it. And yes, I know it's turning into Pluginscape, but what can you do? We've made our bed, so now we gotta lie in it. As for the boss, you want to absolutely prioritize prayer before anything. If you only get 1 hit of phase, that is absolutely fine. Just make sure you keep your health high and make sure you pray the right thing. Everything else should go absolutely swimmingly. There's no set procedure at all for this. Just make sure you get through the room. On to Sotetseg. Now, Sotetseg is the most solved room in terms of perfect, I think, of any of the rooms. It's basically been solved to the point where you only need to pray mage and melee off the maze. For Sot, there are 3 rules. You cannot take a hit off prayer, you cannot die to the death ball, and you cannot take any maze damage. First up, I'm going to show you the mage's POV. The reason the other 2 roles take Missouri is because of Sotetseg, because no matter how many hammers you hit, he'll only ever be 100 defense at the lowest possible. And so the mage, geared and void, is going to be the one tick eating. Your job is to make sure you go north enough to where you are no longer splitting balls to your other teammates. You tick eat the death ball, and your teammates split the death ball. Off the start of Sot, you're going to hammer twice, and then if you get a third hammer for the P3, you can use it then. Most likely your divine will run out by then. You can choose to resip a normal super combat or not. That's completely up to you. Make sure you know your flinch timings, and if you're on Sot, remember to pray melee. Getting hit by a melee attack on melee prayer will not fail the task. After mazes, it's your job to stay on as long as possible, allowing the other two to get to their sides. After mazes, remember to pray melee, because you want him to melee so that you don't get chance to split ball. Reason being is because if he does a mage attack rather than a melee attack, there's a chance it bounces to your teammates. Now for the two rangers, your job is to immediately go to your tiles marked, one of you east, one of you west, and you'll be Tbowing. Let the mage double hammer on the first phase. Your job is to hammer after each of the mazes. When balls come, run backwards so that Sotetseg cannot reach you, because you're already on his max distance. Once you run 2 tiles back, he no longer can hit you. This way you avoid any split balls at all. Wait for the death ball. Once it hits, it does 52 damage. Make sure you've always eaten up, because after you've taken one, you have to eat up again before the second. Don't forget to range pot as well. After the death ball hits, you can attack Sot again, and go back to your tile. At the start of each maze, switch all your gear and put on melee prayer. You want to take the first melee hit on the side you're running to. So you'll see me pre-run over to my side, wait, hit my hammer, and then run backwards. This way you avoid any chance of splitting balls and any RNG in this room at all. It should be only pray mage and only movement, apart from off the maze. I'll have the tiles linked in the description. Some added info and some extra tips to help are: 1, as the melee, when the 2 rangers go to split the ball, because Sot cannot attack, he will not stay in his cycle, in his 5-tick cycle. So you've got to be extra careful of the melee, and especially when you're flinching when they're splitting balls. If you want to, just wait for Sot's attack and then react. Additionally, Sotetseg's mazes will proc at 66% and 33%. If your damage is good enough, you can click the floor at around 70% and around 40%, and wait for the balls to come. Once the balls come, attack Sot, and you'll skip the death balls. This saves having to split or tick eat them, which can be incredibly helpful. It is very easy to skip all balls at Sot. Now onto the biggest run ender, Xarpus. Now, unlike popular belief, P1 is not RNG. You can always get P1. Granted, you have to be tick perfect some of the time, but we're doing perfect top after all. Enough complaining. So for P1, you cannot let an exhumed heal more than twice. P2, you cannot take any poison damage at all. P3, you cannot take any poison damage or die. For P1, the strategy is as follows. You want to stay in a triangle perfectly. If you get to an exhumed after it's splatted twice, you stay on that thing till it ends. If you get there when it's splattered once and you see another one pop up, you can immediately leave. Once you see another exhumed, it can only leak once more. If you get there tick perfectly, you don't even need to worry. You'll be absolutely fine. Make sure you absolutely stay in a triangle using near enough the inner tiles, the ones that you would normally scythe or whip or whatever off of as your main tiles when you're kiting around the room. In this video, you'll see that I'm pinging my teammates. Make sure you call out me or put a prayer up to indicate that you're staying. There's lots of different methods to do it. Some people do orb order, some people do prayer, some people sit in voice and say me, you, whatever. Just make sure communication is there and you'll have absolutely no issues. On P2 start, you're going to do one hammer, one BGS, run to the edge of the room and use your blowpipe all the way around. You rotate clockwise, moving 2 tiles at a time. After the screech, move 2 more tiles. Once ready to, scythe your way around, doing 1 hit per phase. Do not copy me, I just know my ticks. Do 1 hit per phase, pre-running to wherever Xarpus is looking. Good luck. If you have any questions, let me know. Now it's down to Verzik. It's the room that people dread the most. It's definitely the most stressful and it's the longest fight of them all. But I promise you, you'll be absolutely fine. Now for Verzik, you cannot take any of her hits off prayer. P1, you cannot take a hit. P2, you cannot get bounced if you take damage. You cannot take a green ball. You cannot take a mage attack. However, you can, in fact, take lightning damage. For whatever reason, this doesn't count as one of Verzik's attacks and it just counts as AoE. As for P3, melee hits will always fail so long as you get hit, and then mage and range hits you must pray against. Now for P1, you're going to do exactly what you're used to. You're going to do 2 specs each, just dropping between you, making sure you run behind pillar, don't take any silly risks, but also making sure we get enough hits to actually take her down. Again, the whole theme of this fight is that, you know, if you miss a scythe hit, that's absolutely fine. Just stay in cycle. Stay in cycle. And you know, if in P1 you do 1 scythe run back, at least you're doing damage. Just, you cannot stagnate, especially in P3, you need to make sure the damage is there, because if it's not, you're going to get punished by the green ball, you're going to get punished hard, and it starts from P1. You need to make sure you get the damage, otherwise you're going to get punished. Now at P2 start, we're going to avoid the pillars, make sure you don't take those. And we're going to run south. There's going to be 1 person southwest, 1 person south, and then 1 person southeast. The person on the west is going to freeze west, the person on the east is going to freeze east. The reason we stand south is because crabs cannot spawn in the south side of the room. However, they can spawn in the middle, but also slightly south of the middle. so that's why we need to go far south to not chance anything. And remember, if you've set up the custom hides plugin, as I told you to earlier in this video, your left click autocast will not work on these crabs because you have them chosen as hidden. You need to make sure to put the forward slashes in, as I mentioned before, otherwise you will not be able to left click them. You can still manual cast absolutely fine, but you cannot left click. Once these crabs are frozen, we're going to wait for them to naturally explode. Do not worry about lightning attacks, just make sure you eat up afterwards. Once these crabs naturally explode, absolutely do not kill the purple crab. The reason being is because if this dies, then you can have another set of crabs. Now, once you've left this alive, make sure to move in together. The reason being is the closer you are to Verzik, the faster her attacks are going to be. And so if someone's at the edge of the room getting 1-tick attacks, that's going to be almost impossible to navigate. So make sure you move in together, check that your team's all moving in the same time as you, and then once you're in, just stay in cycle and don't ruin it. Don't be that guy. Now for my final input of Pluginscape, I'm going to talk about visual metronome. So you see the number above my head that's counting from 1 to 7. That is for Verzik's attacks. I'll put my hands up and say it. That's for Verzik's attacks. The reason being is Verzik works on a 7-tick cycle up until tornadoes. Once tornadoes happen, she turns to a 5-tick cycle, but pre-tornadoes, she's on a 7-tick cycle. Now, why is this helpful? Is because you always stand under at the same number. On screen now are my settings. I rarely change them. I don't really tend to change much about plugins once I've installed them. All I know is it tells me the number I need, and I'm happy. Feel free to do whatever you want. You can make it as colourful or as least colourful as possible. I know a lot of people use TikTok ones where it just changes between 2. Now you're into the red crabs. I like to do a thing called 3 down reds. This means that we want to have 3 sets of red crabs. I do this personally just to secure the fact that every single person on the team will have double claws for P3. Additionally, you'll be killing the purple at this point, and also just make sure you do not get bounced and do not take any green attacks. If you're unsure, just leave crabs healthy and let them leak healthy and just stay in cycle on Verzik. You can take as long as you need. You won't have any issues with supplies at all. Once P3 begins, make sure you're all standing on the south side of Verzik and wait until the tank is identified. If you do not want to tank and you want to change tank, make sure to run away from Verzik, because if you stand under her, her attacks will become even faster and will be 1-tick attacks. Now, everyone stands south of Verzik. The reason again is because crabs cannot spawn in the south side of the room. They can only spawn west, east, north. The person whose tank should stand in the middle. One person should stand to the east of them, one person to the west of them. The reason being is that identifies who's freezing what crabs and who has priority on what crabs. Once crabs are frozen, make sure no one's standing near them, and again, just let them naturally pop. And again, another friendly reminder to turn off the custom hides plugin, otherwise you cannot left click like I did just then, and it can save you if you're left clicking. Now on web start, just remember to be careful on damage. You do not want to proc tornadoes. We're going to keep her above 20%, but get her to as near as 20% as possible. The tank takes control of this. After webs, as the tank, make sure you do not let tank change, making sure you stay quite near Verzik. The reason being is this can screw up a lot of timings and can screw up the post webs. Once Verzik's 21% or around there, we need to get ready for yellows. A pro tip for this is you want to keep Verzik in the west side of the room. The reason being is tornadoes spawn to the south and to the west of you. And so after proccing yellows, after doing yellows, when we're proccing tornadoes, we want to proc tornadoes and continue running northeast. This way you cannot get an instant nado, and it means that you will always be fine on tornadoes. Now if your tank, just do 1 attack for every attack of Verzik's, making sure we use our double claw and making sure we don't lose tank and making sure we still do some hits. If you're not the tank, make sure to path northeast as you double claw and scythe and stay on Verzik and be aware of your own tornado. Once Verzik's completed, just make sure to keep pathing to keep the tornado away from you. And congratulations on your perfect top. If you have any questions at all, please leave them down below in the description. Man, I meant comments. Oh, for God's sake.
Cool. One and done, right?
Yeah. Holy fucking shit.
Easy as ever.
Fellas, I just want to say thank you so much for the support of the videos recently. I've been enjoying games so much. I've been enjoying making videos so much because of the support I've been getting. I expect to generate GM. I uploaded on a whim. I expect to generate GM to do like 200 views, and I was like, maybe I'll release episode 2, maybe I'll keep it going in the background. The thing has gone crazy. These speeds recently have gone crazy. The only reason I've been doing so many speeds is because Generate is locked behind 65 farming. But anyway, like it's crazy the amount of support I've been getting, and I just want to say thank you so much. And you know, it's been motivating me to put so much more time and effort into my videos, and I hope that this video reflects that. Not to mention that everything is down below in the comments in terms of all the written stuff. If you don't want to watch the long form, I have it all down there in short form. But yeah, I hope you all learn something. Hope you will get the CA. I just want to say thank you so much for the support recently. It's been absolutely insane. I love all of you. Yeah, if there's anything that you want guides written on or anything like that, just let me know, because I'm looking forward to release those. As I say, a lot of things coming out next week, a lot of streams happening recently. Please check that out. And yeah, get me to 1,000 subs so I can start making money and rinsing it. Cheers, boys. Thank you.